Alrighty, welcome into the Whatcom County Football Podcast. It's episode 52. I'm your host, Ryland Spencer, along with me, Tyler Anderson from Whatcom Preps. And our special guest tonight is Whatcom County legend, Mike Perez. Mike, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are a 1995 graduate of Nooksack Valley High School, and you're now the principal over at Squalicum. In this pandemic, though, what does a principal do right now?
Man, I don't know where to begin or where to end. I would probably say the level of communication is times 1,000, and the majority of the time is spent in various ways and modes just communicating. So it's a lot different than it has been ever in my career in education, and the level of communication is definitely a huge difference.
So are you actually having to go into the school, or is everything from home right now?
We started last spring. I was home. This was like my constant spot right here. And then starting in about July, August, we're able to have small groups of people going into the building with a lot of safety protocols. And we've slowly been chipping away and expanding. So I've been, for the most part, in the school almost every day since August.
So what you're telling me is that if going back to my days in high school, if I had to go to the principal's office, this is the view right here that I would get.
Yep. Sometimes it would have been in the spring. What's been pretty fortunate is our discipline. I think it's probably everywhere in every school. Our discipline situations has drastically dropped.
Yeah, I think even a guy like myself, I might have been able to pull it off a little bit more than normal.
You might have got away with a couple things.
Yeah. Well, and the dirty looks from teachers is a lot better than, some of the things that actually went on. Hey, you played at Western Washington University. Kind of a two-part question here. One, did you ever play against John Kittner? Did you get to pick him off if you did?
I was his senior year was my freshman year. So I was redshirting that year. And this is what I was going to be worried about. Man, I don't get to surround myself with a lot of people to be able to talk memory stuff. You guys are going to ask me questions, and I feel like so behind. I'm feeling like I'm not even I'm not at anyone's level to be on the screen with the two of you with the knowledge of football. So I know you guys are asking me questions. Man, I'm going to be stumped. I'm going to stump myself. I'm not going to remember any of those. But I was a redshirt freshman, and he was a senior. So I got a great view of the game. One of my good friends is Orlando Steinauer. And so watching those two go and a bunch of other guys going in that game and the caliber of athletes that were in those games when those guys were playing was pretty insane. It's pretty awesome.
Don't worry too much about not having great football memory or anything like that. You got to remember, at one point we had Ron Lepper on the show, so everything else is going to be kind of uphill. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I know his techniques. He just tries to distract the whole time.
Well,
so he's
and he had one of these, but it was just bright white to keep everybody looking at him like he was Santa. So it was a little different.
Hey, Mike. So in high school, 3 years of full-on varsity football, and also for those 3 years, 3 different coaches, 3 different offenses. You're still able to put up numbers. I'm just going to go through each one of these coaches and just kind of tell me what you remember about them and kind of how they helped you. First with Dwayne Rilla.
Man, the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that guy was his stature. Like, he was a big dude. And we used to do, this is a horrible story. This is what I'm afraid. I'm gonna share stories where someone I haven't seen in a long time, I'll run into the grocery store and want to slap me. So one of the things was punt return. So I'd be back on punt return, and I didn't get punts kicked to me. It was him with his cannon arm throwing balls, felt like 50 miles up in the air and like 60 yards deep on punt returns. I remember that about him. I remember just pretty calm and collective kind of a dude. He'd get fired up at times. But, coming in as a brand new guy, he wasn't from the area, trying to establish a culture and a program that, didn't necessarily have a winning record all the time. So he came in with a little bit of somewhat of an edge, but it was like, you're expecting, you got to kind of establish some things, but definitely knew what he was doing, knew his IQ. But yep.
And the next one, Doug Preston. Oh,
you want to know a story about Dwayne Rilla? Actually,
yeah.
I got to play against him in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he ended up leaving at some point. Well, after that year, and I don't know where he went, but he got into the college ranks, and he was coaching. I want to say it was a Western Montana or Western something. They came and played. I can see this is where I'm going to get in trouble. I don't remember what they came and played us at Civic.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to be able to see them. So
cool.
That's just a crazy story. I know that Tyler will probably remember that forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. Doug Preston, he's one of my personal all-time favorite coaches for any sport I've ever played. What do you remember about Coach Preston?
Right now, I remember that I beat him every time at golf. So hopefully he sees this. But he was so, the thing I'd say about him is that his personality was just awesome. Like I love the guy. I loved playing for the guy. He never yelled,
right?
Unless it was like for enthusiasm. He never got after it. I mean, he's the definition of a coach that's a full teacher, and the patience of to work with high school knuckleheads, and to get them to understand, buy in, perform at a high level. And he was super funny. So I mean, he was a super engaging guy. I love playing with that guy. He was awesome.
And then transferring to Nooksack Valley, played under Gil James.
Gil, just getting to play for him for the one season, I didn't get to be around him other than during the season for the most part. I actually got to know Coach actually more years after high school.
Oh.
And he was, how would I say? He just like, he's in the room. He demanded the respect. Everybody respected him. But at the same time, like he would crack some jokes. He was a good guy to be around. And you just knew we're going to have a good time, but like the level of expectation was there, and everybody respected him. Going in there as a new guy, like I had to fall in line real quick with it. Like everybody respected him quick. I knew not to be pushing any buttons, which typically I did everywhere.
I know how that goes. Tyler mentioned Mount Baker to Nooksack Valley. You go there for your senior year. When you went back and played against Mount Baker that senior season, was it buddy? Was there some bad blood? Were guys mad at you? Were they looking to really give you a pop? Or, what do you remember from that game?
Yeah, that was probably one of the most intense football games I had played in. And it was super mutual. I know that I knew people wanted to knock my head off. There's a little bit of trash talking going, being said, obviously not on social media, but getting the word through other people and so on and so forth. So it was a pretty hype game. I'm sure I didn't get to talk to a whole lot of people between that gap. We hung out and chatted, but it was there was a lot of anticipation for that game. I definitely wanted to make sure that we won, and so that was a fun game. We didn't win though, so that kind of
sucked. Tyler, 5 names?
Yeah, I think it's time for 5 names.
All right. I'm going to give you 5 names one at a time, and give me 5-10 seconds about each of these 5 people. All right.
Okay. I'm hoping that you guys are going to ask me names that I'm going to remember. So going back to these memory things, don't be questioning my lack of memory here.
You'll be all right, Mike.
First one, Bret Lentz.
Oh man. Man, do I get one word, or I'm just talking about him?
Give me 5 or 10 seconds.
I think the challenge would be if you mentioned the name Bret Lentz to anybody, to try and have them describe him in one word. I don't think it's possible. Man, I love that guy. It was to go to Nooksack, and then, having played against him, knowing that he's he's one of our top athletes in the league and in the county, and obviously going to go to the next level, and going in there. And with a lot of the guys at Nooksack, the welcoming attitude that they had was awesome. And like Bret Lentz, I would say Bret Lentz was, I know I watched the episode with TJ, and TJ said just one of the best human beings. And that's what I think about is like, I don't think I recall Bret ever like talking down to anybody, ripping them apart or whatever. He was like the biggest cheerleader for everybody. So that's why I talk about Bret like just super positive towards everybody, and wanted to see everybody just like ball out. It was awesome. He's an awesome guy.
So Bret Lentz, a cheerleader. Okay. David Galbraith.
Yeah. I beat him in golf too.
Hey, if you want to leave it at that, that's okay.
Man, he was like in high school, he was like the silent freaking assassin, just a beast in everything. And I mean, and I played with sports with him since like baseball in like 6th grade, and just soft spoken, didn't say much, and just was like balling out. And some of the things that he'd be able to do, you're just like, geez, like it was. I felt like sometimes it's hard to get him hyped up because he was just like even keel, just like, okay, this is what I do. But he was awesome, you know.
Galen Smith.
Galen's, man, I love Galen Smith. That's one of the same thing, like similar to like to Brit. I don't know Galen to say negative anything about anybody, and one of the funniest human beings that I've ever met, and just joking. I mean, he's a replica of his dad, and the jokes, the humor, and then you get him on the field, and man, it was way different. That dude was a beast and got after it. At that game at Nooksack at Baker my senior year, man, he knocked the snot out of me. I went across the middle. He literally knocked snot out of my nose. So that's
Look
when
at
I knew
Tyler
I was in
smiling
for
right
it.
now. You see that? Tyler was smiling about that hit because it wasn't him who took it.
Oh man.
Tom Horseman.
Tommy Horseman is like he's like a brother. Like him and I talk text all the time still, and ultra competitor at everything, including one of him and I's passionate and favorite things to do is challenge each other's brains. But he doesn't do that with everybody. Like the dude argues with everybody, and everybody knows how to do it. But it's just fun. Never gets to the next level or anything like that, but just competitive about everything, and then loves everybody. Just a phenomenal human.
And the last one, Lance Zamzow.
Oh man, you're man. I'll go for days about all these guys. Lance Zamzow was like, how do I say this in a nice way? Like,
I know exactly what you mean, Mike. You do your best.
He's I mean, everybody knows he's one of the best athletes in Whatcom County, right? He was the transformation from 6th grade to 7th grade was huge, and then he just was like just an unreal athlete forever. And the dude, I remember we'd be out at halftime at football varsity games, and he's throwing like 60-yard bombs to me. We're just playing catch. And boy, I would say this, Lance was pretty gullible at times. Like we used to do some pranks and joke around with him and get him to, you know, believe almost anything. But man, he was awesome to play with. Hopefully I said that nice.
No, I think you did a great job, but I mean, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, Lance is looking up to you guys, being a few years younger. You know, all those guys. You guys were idols to me, and Lance was he's a different kind of dude, but he's just a different guy. I mean, you know, all sports, he can hit a three, he can throw a ball 90 miles an hour. He's the fastest guy you've ever met. I mean, it was all those things, you know.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of like, hey, you know, he doesn't think he's any good. You know what I mean? It's just he's just fun. You brought up golf a few times. So what's your handicap these days?
Oh, you know, when I play against those guys, so I typically don't keep it just to make it fair on them. I want to keep, you know, I want them to keep wanting to golf against me. Uh-huh. So I prefer not to share that information.
If you were playing, you know, you go out to Squalicum games now and you watch that team play. Do you ever look at it and go, man, if I was playing in today's offenses with the spread and all that stuff, how do you think that would have gone?
He's already shaking his head.
I go back even years before, man. You guys' program, what you guys have been doing, Tyler, you're a freaking like abyss of wisdom in terms of stats. Watching what you've been like pushing out for years already. And for a long time, even after high school, I was trying to read the paper watch to see like, okay, what are kids doing in receiving? So when I was like in growing up, 9th grade, I used to check the box scores, right? And I just remember like watching these guys. The only guy I really remember from back in those days was McPhee from Linden.
Yeah, Dan McPhee.
His stat line would be like 2 receptions, like 120 yards and a touchdown. And I'm just like, oh, is that what I'm supposed to be like? I'm supposed to do that. Okay. So going from our era that was, we didn't throw much. And then as the game started opening up and I'm seeing quarterbacks throwing it, early 2000s, even some of those Meridian teams throwing it, 50 times a game and receivers having like 15 receptions. And I'm just like, man, I missed out. What the heck? Absolutely. I would love to be running around and it's on some of this turf.
Yeah.
And then even when I think about it, even if we would have just opened up the offense with the quarterbacks I had.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened. It would have been so fun.
Oh man. And the quarterbacks you had, we've joked about this over the past that you've caught a touchdown from 5 different players in your high school career. I don't think there's another player in Whatcom County history that can say they've caught a touchdown from 5 different players. There's been quarterbacks that have thrown touchdowns at 5 different receivers, but I'm going to put you on the spot again, Mike. Can you name all 5 players that you've caught a touchdown pass from?
Because we know Tyler can.
He
can tell you what elementary school they went to, who their doctor was when they were born.
Oh, yeah. I think I can get 4 at least.
Yeah.
Pete Barter's number 1. He was the first.
Yep.
Then this is where it's going to get interesting. I would probably say Lance and Tommy.
Yep, both of them.
And then Steve Nyans.
Right, at Nooksack. Now, the other one was on a wide receiver end-around pass. So he wasn't a quarterback.
Oh, wait.
Oh, he's playing games now.
I'm glad you gave me a hint because I think I know what the game was, but
Yeah, it was homecoming against Meridian your junior year.
Crap. Maybe I don't know then. Oh, yeah, I do. If you say it was a Riker?
It was Riker Sternhagen. That's right.
Oh, I would have never got that without those hints. I don't even remember that play.
Oh yeah, it was a wide receiver end around, and he just took the end around and then put his hand up and saw you open in the corner of the end zone and hit you. You guys won big in that game. I think it was like 42-6.
Yeah, that was a long time coming. Everybody was excited for that game. We felt like we could actually freaking win for once. So
yeah.
So before we came on the air, Tyler was telling me that there was a nerdy kid that you knew, and he used to keep stats for you specifically. I don't know if you paid him or what it was. His name's Tyler Anderson, and I want to know, what is the best Tyler Anderson story you got? See, so the guy's sitting there right now, all right, and he's smiling. And you can't see enough red in his face. I want to try to make his face red right now. What kind of story can Mike Perez give me that we could maybe, I don't know, you got to have something.
So I can tell you stories about high school and how he acted in high school, or how he dressed in high school, or his hair in high school.
I've seen pictures of like a mohawk.
So people have probably already seen those. So I'll spare everybody on that. Plus, like, Tyler's the man. I'm not going to do anything to upset Tyler. So I'm going to tell you one of the the most amazing stories that I have about that dude was, and you brought it up, the stats and keeping stats in high school. The day that you gave me my my career stat line, I'm out of nowhere, he just presents to me like all my stats from high school on like this little spread. I still have it, man. I have it in my scrapbook. It's from him. I have it. Like that was, to me, that was one of the coolest things that I could get in high school, and it came from him, and he gave it to me. And I'm just like, I was unaware that he was like keeping those, that he would know those, and then knowing him to this day, like that's the reference point. And I'm just like, this dude is born for this. And so that's my best story to tell about Tyler.
He's like the was it the Rain Man or whatever? Like Tyler, you've told the story before about
I wasn't gonna say nothing like that, but it is.
You've told the story before.
I'm an excellent driver.
who was it? Was it Bryce Vandenhoek, or who was it at the Meridian Nooksack game?
It was Kyle. Yeah, it was Kyle Veldman for Nooksack.
Yeah, and here I am. First time, was that the first time I ever met you, Tyler?
Yeah, it was the first time we met.
Yeah, first time we met, and Jake Heaps was there, and Brandon Huffman was there, and you could tell Tyler was a little nervous. You could tell that he wasn't real comfortable in the situation, and then Veldman makes this catch reception, and Tyler just goes, "Oh, that's his 100th catch of the year, or 100th catch of his career," and I knew that Tyler was that guy. But I don't think the other two people with me were, and we all just kind of like looked, and I don't. What did I say, Tyler? I said something like, "This guy's nuts" or something like.
Yeah.
And it was just like, because it was just one of those things. Like, I got a good memory, and I come up with all kinds of crazy stuff on the podcast that I do with Brandon Huffman. He said something the other day, and I spit out a couple of names, and he's like, every time I think I have stupid knowledge on stuff, you go and taught me and make me look like nothing. And then Tyler goes and does stuff. It always blows me away when we're preparing for a show or something, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, so this guy did this 100 receptions for this guy," and I'm just like, "Homie, chill. Like, what do we do? Like, what? How do you know this stuff?"
Nonchalant.
Yeah, just absolute insanity. Hey, another story Tyler kind of told me about was apparently you got duct taped to a field goal post when you were a little younger.
See, now people paid me to come on the show to not say anything embarrassing about them.
I'm trying to get it out of you now.
Sharing any stories?
No, they don't have to give any names. I just think it's great that you came out of this so great and were such an awesome player, and it was like, man, they had no clue.
Oh, it was freshman year was certainly interesting in lots of different ways, man. It was a math class, freshman, myself and another freshman in a math class with a few seniors in there. That wasn't safe ground to exist in. Lunchtime was interesting, and that's when the taping thing happened. Did you? I don't know if I need to tell that story. I'm sure some people know that, but that was. I mean, it was hazing, right? It was back in the day. It was just hazing, and it was. Those guys are gonna say, well, it's because you were practicing sometimes with the varsity, or you're a good athlete, or whatever. We're just hazing you, break you in, whatever. But man, as a freshman, you don't ever think that that's the case. You don't ever think anybody likes you, and I'm just like, man, what the heck? But you learn from it, you grow from it, and it toughens you up. Yeah, that was the days.
So then you went on to break all the school records, so it didn't really matter anyways.
So Tyler kind of throws you under the bus with the hazing thing. Now what kind of stories do you have about Tyler?
They're not changing.
Oh man, I'm sorry, Mike. I just to me, I think it's a cool thing because and I'm going to be honest, the Mike I grew up with, I would have never known you'd be an administrator, a principal. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome what you're doing. And another thing that I know that's pretty awesome is your daughter. And she's an amazing athlete from what I hear. And how old is she now?
She's we were just joking about this. She's 11.
Okay.
And man, going on like 16, it feels like the struggle's real for this preteen and teenager thing. And I think she and I were just talking about it. We haven't measured her height in a while, and she's somewhere between like 5. She might be like 5'5" now, maybe. She's somewhere in there. So she's in 5th grade. It's kind of funny. When I was in 5th grade, it was Travis Brower and Jacob Seca were the kids that felt like they were 6 feet already.
Right. But the athletic ability, from what I've heard, I mean, take her and take 11-year-old Mike Perez. Who's the better athlete?
Oh, well, at 11 years old, the only sport I played was soccer. So she's doing soccer right now, and right now she's not doing a whole lot of basketball or baseball, but she's done flag football, she did baseball, and she's done basketball. And she's starting to do some other things, but she's probably at that age. At soccer, no, but at those other sports, probably, because I wasn't playing them yet. We joke all the time. Whether I tell her, she's caught on now. I said, if you grow to be taller than me, you owe me $100. If you don't go taller than me, you owe me $100. It took a long time for her to get it, but she's got onto it now. That's the goal, and now we'll play games or compete, and she loves beating me. The only things she can really beat me at is some board games. I'm relentless on her, so hopefully it helps.
That's awesome.
Tyler mentioned golf earlier, and I'm not going to ask you for your handicap, but when we talk about the best courses you've played, is there one of them that sticks out over the rest? I love golf, but I've never really played big time courses, like anything too special.
I think, what's interesting, and I've played quite a few courses, played a couple courses on Maui, quite a few courses on Oahu, played down in like the Seattle area, played some courses in Oregon. It's predominantly probably everywhere. And one of my favorite courses to play is Shuckson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of, I like change of elevation. In my issues with my swing, I can still kind of survive on that course. There's other courses. I actually, for the first time, this is crazy. For the first time, I played Loomis Trail last summer, 2 summers ago, maybe. And that was super fun. And I did decent, but it was mainly, I just got lucky. When I started to realize like how much and where the water was, man, that was, I should have been way worse.
How about this? If I gave you the ability to play any course in the world, which one would you want to play?
Oh, is there that one is it Dubai? Is that the one that you like can tee off of some massive cliff?
Oh, I don't
know, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like myself, the first one that comes to mind is maybe kind of similar, where you're like, oh, tee off a cliff. I'm like, I want to play. I think it's TPC Scottsdale, where they have the waste management open and they've got all the fans down the side. Like, golf is the quiet sport where every now and then you have like, they're digging up a tree a couple holes over, so it's kind of noisy. Everything else is like dead silent. But just the idea of like, as soon as I hit this ball, these people are going to go bonkers. I'm sorry, I'm probably putting it over the roof over on the side, because I'd be so afraid of that instant roar. I wouldn't know what to do with myself, and I don't think it would be pretty. I really don't think it would. But
that would definitely be fun.
I like there's a course down here, down in like the Burien area, where it's like you've got one hole going this way and the next one is right here next to it. So even if you miss, you're still on a fairway. You just got to find your way back to the one that you're supposed to be on. That's my that's my kind of course right there.
Oh man. Hey Mike, when you played in high school, I think you were generously listed at about 145. You probably played a little bit closer to 140. Talk talk about no fear. You were a guy that would go across the middle, like you said earlier. You were a guy that on third down, you were going to get the ball to number 33. Everybody kind of knew that. But I mean, what kind of, I mean, you were the smallest guy on the field pretty much every single play.
Unless
what kind of
Tyler
mindset
was
did
on
you
the field
have
with you.
Yeah, unless you were holding an extra point from me or something. But I mean, what kind of mindset do you need to have to be that guy?
Two pieces. First one was stupidity. And the stupidity for me was like, I didn't know that I was the smallest dude. And the other part has to do with probably the chip on my shoulder, right? And so they kind of go hand in hand. The chip on my shoulder was outweighed the stupidity in my brain. So no matter what, we go into every game, like I was trying to prove something for lots of different reasons. Sport was, I tell people all the time, athletics saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it, and without like tons of people in the Mount Baker and Nooksack community helping me along. So, but that's pretty much what I chalk it up to. I mean, I always thought like, hey, if they're going to throw me the ball, like someone's trusted me to do something, I better get it done. So it was, I needed to prove that I was worth something on the field. And then I was just too stupid to realize like I was the smallest dude out there.
And then you go to college and you're by far the smallest guy out there. Was there any talk at all of you playing wide receiver at Western, or was it corner right off the get-go?
No, I went in as a receiver. Now I got to be careful what I say here. So I went in as a receiver. Okay. And I'll share a couple stories. I went in as a receiver, and we had like I show up, and there's like I felt like 27 receivers on the team, and I think it was double digits. We're talking maybe like 17 or something crazy. Yeah. And so going through that first round of 2 days my freshman year, and I'm just like, dang, like, well, Dane Looker's a freshman with me, and then watching like Chris Nickel, some of these guys that were just unreal, Mario Casello, quick, and they caught everything, and they were tough to tackle, and I just was like, man, I'm kind of deep, but I think I'm holding my own. I'm catching balls. I'm still, I'm catching one-handed passes. Yeah. I go against Steinauer in like these one-on-one drills, and I try and share this story with him all the time. He, for some reason, being a DB, he don't remember, and I got him on a slant, and he was jamming, so he's in press technique. I got him on a slant, and I just knew as soon as I caught the ball, I'm just like, that was stupid of me. And our DB coach started kind of laughing. I go to the end of the line, and we go through the rotation again, and I'm coming up, and I can see three guys ahead of me, like he's in the exact same rotation. And I said, there's no way in hell I'm going against him again. That's suicide. That's just so stupid. So luckily we had a dude on our team, freshman also, who a little bit shorter than me, but kind of looked like me. And so he was standing behind me. I said, I'm not going. So he went in front of me, and he just got worked. Yeah. So that was so. Just going back to the story, like we had a ton of receivers. We get through the whole season or whatever, and actually it was Coach Tripp. Coach Tripp, we're in the weight room, and he just comes up and he says, "Hey, we've got tons of receivers. What do you think about in the spring, we're going into spring ball. What do you think about trying something else?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm a receiver, man. I this is what I do." Yeah. And he says, "Well, just think about it." And he said, right now we have 17 receivers, and we got about I don't remember what the number was. We had 8 DBs or something like that, 9 DBs maybe going into spring ball. And he says the lines are way shorter there, and and I just remember thinking, I'm like, dude, are you saying I'm not going to be playing? Like I'm playing. I'm confident that I'm going to be playing. I'm better than like at least 8 of the dudes ahead of me. And so we go into spring ball, and then I said, you know what, screw it, I'll go over there. And then like our first practice, I get a pick, and it was just kind of hype and fun after that. Fast forward a couple of years, and I remember one of our coaches talking to, I think, the paper or something, and saying, "Oh yeah, we moved him over there. That was our decision." And I'm like, man, Come on now. But, trying to take credit, but it was yeah, that's winning as a receiver, ended up as a DB. So
Hey Tyler, when we did the all Squalicum decade thing,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember what the restaurant was?
For
Was it-
Squalicum.
Did we just go with Bob's? Was it Bob's maybe?
It could have been. I mean, I always think of Me Mexico for that could have been for Bellingham though.
That was Bellingham.
Yeah,
That was Bellingham, and I wouldn't let you go back to it.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't remember what restaurant. It might have been Bob's, or I don't know because Boomers was Seahome.
Yeah, Boomers was Seahome. So Mike, when we did the all decade teams, one of the things we did was an all decade like restaurant food spot because Tyler and I both are clearly on the Atkins diet. And so what we wanted to do, what we've done a lot is kind of ask. I'm almost positive it was Bob's, Tyler. I'm almost positive because there's one right there, right? I think there's one pretty close to Civic.
Right.
But so if you were to pick an all decade restaurant in the area of Squalicum, what would it be? Like if you could go to one meal somewhere close to Squalicum, what did Tyler and I miss?
Oh, different than Bob's?
Yes. Or is Bob's the spot? I mean, I love Bob's. I think Bob's is great.
Our staff has a couple spots that we go to.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, they're all in the area. What's the Mexican restaurant over at Sunset? El
Gitano.
Yeah. So
is
that's
that the one across
them.
the street from the baseball?
No, this is at Sunset Square. So it's a little bit. It's close. It's pretty close. It's closer to Squalicum High School than it is to Civic.
Gotcha.
So a couple of our traditions have been changed with COVID, and one of them was going there once a year. Another one is going to Jalapenos on another occasion. So those are some of the ones in the nearby right here. The unfortunate thing is where Squalicum is located, we don't have a ton of things that are close by. We're kind of just at the mercy of what's at Barkley for the most part. But I mean, I was thinking to myself personally, most likely it would be Bob's. And that's not just even for being close by right now. That goes back to like growing up, and it goes back to even being at Western. That was one of the after spots for dinner.
I do like Bob's. Tyler, I didn't even think about it. You've got the Squalicum helmet back there. He's got Squalicum on. I have a wrestling medal of Squalicum. I don't know why I didn't bring it.
It could have been all
I should have been wearing it to fit in.
That's right.
Yeah. So Western guy though, Boomers.
Oh man, I might have to divulge too much info.
Oh,
I had a period of time where I ate at Boomers a lot.
So you were going from being a defensive back to a linebacker?
Well, trying to put on weight a little bit, but the girl I was dating worked at Boomers.
Oh.
and you know what? That place is already cheap as it is. So
Yeah, I consumed a few.
As a guy who eats at a lot of burger places around the state, I do believe they have the best waffle fries, and it's not even close.
Yep.
Not even close. The best.
Yeah.
You know what, Tyler? You know what I realized? We don't have a banner for you to point at anymore.
No, I know. I mean, I was gonna hang it up, but I figured I'd get the helmets here. Got the Mount Baker helmet, Nooksack Valley helmet, not Western, the Squalicum helmet. Hey, Mike, another question for you. You were number 33 in high school, both schools. You go to Western and you get number 1. How did that happen?
Well, it took me a long time to get number 1.
Oh, did you not start out with number 1?
Oh no, I started out with I think it was 85. My redshirt freshman year. Then they got changed to. I think going into spring, I ended up getting 49. That was short-lived because I think then the following fall, I was 20. And then
That's
I
not a
got
bad
one.
number.
I got that one. I was happy. That was way better than what I had. And then then that following spring, I didn't play that first year. Then I redshirted that year, and I was 20. And then that spring, I got number 1. Yeah. So we had a DB that transferred to UW, who had number 1, and so I scooped that up real quick.
And you got to return punts at Western.
Man, that was my favorite thing to do. That was so awesome. It was so fun.
Oh man. And I didn't go to a lot of Western games, but I went to a few, and being able to watch my buddy return punts, man, that was just the coolest. And so I would imagine, because I mean, I've seen a lot of high school film, and there's not a lot of kids that, I don't think I ever saw you do a fair catch in high school. It's like you didn't believe in fair catches. But man, even when the ball was rolling and there's like 5 defenders around it, you'll dive on it because you don't want the ball to roll anymore. And I'm like, man, that guy is crazy. But it's what you love doing, right?
In high school, it was fun because not everyone understood the rules.
Right.
They could touch it and then they could walk away. I scoop it up and go, or they're just standing there looking around, waiting for someone to touch it. No one does. So I just grab it and get like 5 more yards or something. But the few games that I'd watched growing up in football, I watched Rod Woodson play, and how he was just like, that dude would catch a punt, return, full sprint forward into whatever's coming at him. Yeah. And so I just being back there, being able to touch the ball, trying to make something happen. I learned real quick that that's definitely the play that your defense takes off. No one's blocking, and they're going to be the first ones to tell you. And but that was end up fun. So I realized, like, okay, I'm pretty good within like about 5 to 8 yard radius of making guys miss. But as soon as I get past 10 yards or so, I don't have that wide open speed to just be out running cats. So, but it was that first 10 yards was fun.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler, you mentioned Mike was the first player in Whatcom County history to reach 100 career receptions. Did you know that back at the time, or was it until you got the little card from Tyler?
It was when I got the card from Tyler, and then he mentioned it a couple of times later on. I'm just like, oh, I mean, I didn't really know what that meant, and he kept bringing it up, and then I started watching it a little bit, and I'm like, okay, Leper's the coach, I'm probably pretty safe. And then I started watching the rest of the league, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, everyone's gonna, put up numbers, so it's pretty cool to watch that. But
Tyler, how many now do you know?
How many have reached 100 catches?
Yeah,
I think it's 19 players in Whatcom County history, but only 2 did it in the 90s. Mike, and your I don't know, did you play with Ryan Van Diest at Western?
Yeah, was he still in the 90s? Was he?
Yeah, so he graduated in like 99. So he might have played like your senior year, but he was the next guy.
Hung out.
He was the next guy to hit 100 catches in Whatcom County. So, and only three players in history led the entire county in catches in 2 separate years, and Mike's one of them. So
really?
Kelly Thrift did it in the 80s, and Jordan Wittenberg did it about 7-8 years ago. So usually every year there's the one guy who leads the county in receptions, but you did it for 2 years, and under 2 different teams, 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different systems, and with an all-state running back too, which is tough to say. So
yeah, that was tough.
That year was Tyler, tough. Who was the running back?
It was Bret Lentz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that's what you were going to say, but
yeah,
I didn't know. You said 2 teams. That's and I'm sitting there going, how many teams did this guy play for? I thought it was just 2 of them.
I know. And speaking of all-state running backs, Mike, you get a pretty good bird's eye view at Javensky Schlembacher. What do you have to say about his athletic ability and just him as a human? Because all I've heard is tremendous things.
Just a great kid. So I don't even touch on football.
Right.
But, like, great kid, has his ducks in a row, does his business. He's about his business, does great in the classroom, interacts with students well. I mean, he's the kid that you want as the face of your program, as the face of your school. And then on the field, man, my first year that was his sophomore year, right? And he was playing, I think, or was he?
I think he would have been a freshman.
He was a freshman. That's right. Yeah, he was playing. And I'm just like, and everyone's talking about him. I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, he's good. But right, I'm looking at his size. I keep forgetting that he's a freshman. So I'm saying, oh yeah, he missed this tackle, whatever. But I mean, he was doing awesome stuff. And then he, was awesome the next year.
Right.
And just to watch what I like to describe about him, what I tell people that have asked me similar questions, I said, especially his sophomore year, the progression that he has shown, not just each year, but the progression he showed in every game that season was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just leaps and bounds, like every game got better in every aspect, ran harder, the speed, like it just seemed like every game there was a huge amount of growth in everything that he did. So awesome and fun to watch, and a great kid.
The way I described it to somebody, because I saw him, what week was that, Tyler? Like 7?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
6 or 7. And from there, and then I saw him their last game of the year when they lost in the state tournament or playoffs, whatever it was. The difference is it kind of seemed like the game started to come to him more. You know what I mean? Where it was like he started kind of turning it, where it was like instead of he was chasing things, it was almost like it was almost like he was standing in place and the field was just coming at him, and all he had to do was just like move this way and do this. And then I've kind of gotten to know him a little bit and talking to him a few different times, and then his mom, she's like the nicest lady in the history of life, and his grandfather listens to like everything Tyler and I do. So clearly that guy has listened to a lot of just bad radio stuff. But at least we know we have one listener at all times.
That's right.
Lori Hannah, who I'm sure I'll get a direct message about it. But, it's pretty hard to find. I mean, even if you looked, it's hard to find anything about Javensky Schlenbaker other than I've had to tell people how to say his first name about 300 different times. And it's pretty simple. I mean, you just read it straight across. It is. I mean, it's right there. But Tyler, do you got anything else?
No, I just think this is a lot of fun to catch up with Mike, and we go back a long ways. I got tons of stories. I remember the fast pitch at the Linden Fair. We kind of bumped into each other. I think you had already transferred to Nooksack. We hadn't seen each other for a while, and we were both throwing as hard as we could on the where they do the radar gun, and the radar gun couldn't read it. And we both were trying to throw as hard as we could, and the radar gun just couldn't read it. And I think the high throw for the day was like 74, and we both kind of looked at each other like, well, at least we're throwing at least 74. And we just walked away, and it was just a lot of fun, just playing video games growing up and stuff. So, it's been really cool to be able to know you, and it was cool to give you those stats because you worked really hard for them, and you can't just give that to anybody because someone might just look at it and go, oh, who cares, and crumple up and throw it away. And here we are, 20 some years later, almost 30 years later, and you still have it, which means a lot to me. And it means that what I'm doing, people are actually caring about it. So it means a lot to me.
Man, I don't think that you even, and I know a lot of people will say that too, I don't think that you even know the expanse of what you've impacted, like football players in Whatcom County, right? That for me, like that's just one person. And you're saying like, you're impacted by people, and you have no idea, like you just being able to nonchalant rattle off someone's stats to them or to somebody else, like it's a highlight for everybody. And you don't even, I can't even emphasize enough, like just giving me those stats, what that meant to me, not just like, years later, but in that moment, man, for a kid that grew up the way that I grew up, we talk about this with in schools right now, like it matters when kids feel like they belong or they're cared for or people are paying attention. Mm-hmm. And your act to do that was definitely did that for me, like, oh, someone's paying attention, and it kind of validated to me like what I did was valuable, that it mattered. So I've never told you that it meant a lot at the time. It's meant a lot for over the years, and definitely meant something to me, like through my playing career, that, hey, those things matter. People are watching. And so I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, real quick, Tyler, you mentioned video games. Are we talking about like,
oh yeah,
these type? Okay.
Yeah.
So one game, what are we talking? Tecmo Bowl?
Oh man, well, I remember playing Baseball Stars.
Okay, Baseball Stars.
Yeah.
That's a great game, by the way.
Yeah, we got to create our own teams, and it was cool.
you won't find Baseball Stars up here because I can't find it. And when you do find it, it's like $75 on eBay. One game, Game 7, World Series. Who's winning, Mike Perez or Tyler Anderson?
Oh, is that a question to me?
Both of you. I want to hear. We got 2 minutes. Okay, 30 seconds, Mike, and then Tyler's going to make his 30-second case for it. Why would you beat Tyler in Baseball Stars?
My answer is easy and quick, less than 30 seconds. I'm not winning.
Okay, then we don't need to hear from Tyler.
Oh, it's great, Mike. Oh,
All right.
man.
I think that's where we actually, you know what, Tyler?
Yeah, you got to
We've
ask.
asked a lot of people about the idea of if you could go back and play one game again, what would it be? So we're going to ask Mike Perez here, even though he's got the worst memory since Ron Lepper. We're going to go back and we're going to ask if you could go back and play one game, whether it's in college, high school, at one of the 19 high schools you played at, or anything. You get one game to go back and play again. Why are you going back and playing it, and what is it?
One game?
One game. You get to do it over. It could be a, hey, that was the greatest atmosphere I ever played in. It could be a, hey, I know we could beat those guys if we had one more shot. Hey, it could be, I want to go back and beat Mount Baker when I was a senior in high school. What is it?
That one definitely would have been nice to have. Man, one game.
But you don't want to give those guys the satisfaction in case they're listening.
Oh, and they're listening.
Oh, they know. They already know. We all wanted to win that one. Holy cow, man. Okay, well, so to go back and replay again, is that what the question was?
Yep, and it could be a you lost the game. It could be a you won the game. It could whatever it is. What
you know
one
what?
game Mike Perez played in?
I might throw out a hoop game.
Oh, hey, look at this.
Now,
go completely off the radar here. What do you got?
There's a ton of football games. My junior year LC game would be nice to have won that one. It would have been nice to have beat freaking Squalicum that same year.
Mm-hmm.
And I played Squalicum in high school 3 times and lost to them all 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that haunts me. To get any one of those would have been nice. I'm gonna go to a hoop game, and I think it was my junior year.
So you had just transferred.
Yeah, it had to have been my junior. We played at Nooksack. I think it was my junior year. At Nooksack, we played Seahome.
Oh wow!
And Seahome had I think Josh Smith and I mean they were stacked, and a lot of the younger kids were younger and on that team, and I think they were ranked. They might have been ranked 2 in the state or something like that. What were they, 3A maybe at the time, or 2A or 3A?
Yeah. You guys were 1A and they were at least 3A, I think.
And we beat them. I mean, it was a tough game. I don't know. I mean, Smith was a freak.
Josh Smith went on to UW to play defensive line. Yeah.
But he was just agile out there. And I mean, he was yoked and just.
Yeah.
And I was just new there. And we had a good team. We had Vince, we had TJ, and we had a pretty good team, and I think we won by 2 points.
Oh man!
By free throws. Maybe I'm way wrong. Maybe I'm totally. Here's where my memory might fail me. But I made 2 free throws at the end of the game, and I think that might have sealed it.
Oh man!
I remember, if I recall correctly, man. Talk about being tight. I was pretty tight at that free throw line.
Was Ryan Benning? Did Ryan Benning play basketball, or was he just a football baseball guy? For Seahome.
Or for Seahome. I have no idea.
Okay, so I think he just played football and baseball, but that's Mason Benning's dad, who's the quarterback at Squalicum now. He's one of the best. He was one of the best shortstops I saw, in Whatcom County, around our time. And he played for Seahome, but he might not have played basketball. He might have, but he was the quarterback at Seahome at that point and the shortstop on the baseball team.
Wow.
So just kind of tie it all in there for you.
Well, if he played in that baseball program, then he was a baller.
Yeah, that's a great baseball program.
I'm not even from the area, and I remember that Seahome baseball was. You know what? Seahome was. and Tyler, you know better than me, but weren't they really good at like everything kind of back then?
Well, I remember when ESPN did the Sports Century thing at the turn of the century, and they grabbed every state of the United States to give them their best overall program of the state. And Washington's best overall program was Sea-Home Gymnastics. They won like, I don't know, like 25 state championships or something like that. And they did that like in a 26 or 27 year span. So they've always had amazing, athletic programs and everything. But when the Bellingham school split into three and the talent kind of, overflowed, it's gone down a little bit, but baseball hasn't. Baseball has always been really, really, really strong at CL and cross country. I mean, geez, they win state titles almost every year in cross country, boys and girls now. So
that's just crazy. It's always crazy to me how like there's some schools that for whatever reason just they're always good at certain sports.
Yeah.
Like forever it was Moses Lake wrestling was just, it was like every year you were going to look up and you were going to see Moses Lake in the top 10. And when they started doing the announcements of who was in the finals, it was like at 140, somebody from Moses Lake against this guy. And then at 145, this guy versus somebody from Moses Lake. And it was like, dude, how do you have 14 weight classes and like 8 of them are dudes from Moses Lake? Like, just crazy. And that's what, Sea-Home, I remember you and I talked about Sea-Home cross country a little bit. I think it was last year during the football season.
Right.
And I just remember you kind of gave me their numbers like, oh, they've won 6 out of the last 7 or whatever it was. And it was like, what? How? Like people graduate and move on. And you would think that eventually there's going to be a little bit of a lull, but they don't. And it's just, but that's also kind of the great thing about high school athletics is like when you build a program like that, it can just go, and I think Bob Ames and, Kurt Cramey / Blake Van Dalen are a great example of that. And Jamie Plankovich. And I mean, heck, Ron, actually, you know what? We can pretty much name every head coach in Whatcom County, it feels like.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's wrap it up right there. Tyler, what do you say?
Sounds good.
All right. He's Tyler Anderson from Whatcom Preps. Tyler, what is going on the site right now? Anything special that people should be keeping an eye out for?
Not a whole lot, but it sounds like sports are right around the corner in Whatcom County. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to start churning out some more stuff.
Yeah, I hope so too. It would be kind of nice to maybe watch a little football here. But he's Tyler Anderson, Whatcom Preps. I'm Ryland Spencer from Cascadia Preps. Mike Perez, thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate you.